La Lanterna, a spotlight in Italian football, is a podcast that dives into the beautiful game seen from the eyes of two fans from the oldest team in Italy's point of view. My name is Fabrizio Cardone, Canadian and Genovese, together with my friend Matt Killen, an American-born and Genoa fan. Every week, we'll tell you all you need to know about the only team you need to know about, Genoa CFC. Plus, we'll have guests and provide updates from around the magical world of Italian football. Benvenuti, bentornati, no, I just said that, sorry. Sorry. Benvenuti, welcome to La Lanterna podcast. This is episode 91 with yours, Truls, and whatever is Fabrizio and my best buddy.
Fabry, it's Matt. How you doing? Everything
I'm
okay
sorry.
over there?
I know, not really. No, I am. Of course I am. You know that I am about to have a child, so
yes,
I'm just giving news out there that in the event, to our listeners, not for the compliments itself, but a new Genoano will be coming. It's a boy, but there might be chances that either Matt goes solo or we skip for a week or two, or depending on what's happening with the wifey.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. That's coming in like a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Well, that's the due date, so it could actually technically even happen while we're recording. So if I just have to drop, you know what's happening.
Shit.
Yeah, it's that close. It's that close.
Wow.
Anyways, so we're mostly not here talking about myself or my baby coming up, but we're here to talk about Genoa. So this was the very waited for revenge, as someone was trying to get me to say, at Firenze. It was Fiorentina versus Genoa, which ended 1-1. So what do you have to say about the match?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I was coming into the match a little bit more of like a negative mindset. And I don't know if like negative is the right way to say how it turned out for us, actually. You know, like I think the way that I see it, I feel like I see it frustratingly like level-headed at this point. A couple of days later, we're recording on like a Wednesday. It happened on Monday, which I guess isn't really that many days afterwards. But I thought we actually looked pretty sharp coming out of the gate. I personally thought Aaron Martin had one of his better games. We were talking before recording the pod that some are really upset with him because of he was marking Icone, who ended up scoring the tying goal. But I thought some of his creativity earlier on in the first half, some of the opportunities he created, I think we were unlucky. Ekuban had a great header that was saved, and then he had an awesome chance for a goal that he just kind of flubbed. But, you know, in a way, it kind of felt like we went up with a deserving lead going into halftime. And, I mean, again, like, bear in mind, I know we kept talking about when we were recording with Gabe the week before, our new friend and my new friend, you've known him forever, fellow Calcio fan, but Viola fan, not one of ours. This wasn't going to be like the first match that we played, but I still think that in a way you have to look at this as a type of success, given the result and where they are in the table, and also the fact that we're playing away from home. But I recognize not everyone is going to see it that way. So how did you kind of take the whole thing?
Well, I think that the result actually, when it happens, like the goals themselves indicates what the game was all about. First half, if we look at like point structure, like boxing, I would think it was 100%. No, well, 100% is like just because I'm pumping it, but it was definitely in favor of Genoa. This was a great first half, great showing by the guys. Unfortunately, we had an early injury for Junior Messias, who had to leave the pit, which towards the end anyways of the first half, and Thorsby, you know, my preferred not player, had to come in. Sometimes he does well, and this one didn't do that great. Perhaps we needed someone else. Anyways, second half, a lot of the major players actually were called into the pitch in order to try to recuperate, and they tied indeed, and maybe try to win it. Italiano called in all his best players. They tried the best. Fiorentina definitely had the better half in the second half.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
And it ended 1-1. So I think it was a very fair result. If we look at the first half, we have nothing to be ashamed of, nor I think it's a fair result. If it had ended obviously in the first half, it would have, as the result said, it would have been fair also for the win. Now, Having said that, all the players are still working well, except, the couple matches that we mentioned in the past. But yes, a lot of people talking bad about Aaron Martin or Ekuban, just because one was a co-participant in that goal that we conceded in the second half, and Ekuban because he's the one that did not score those 2-3 chances that you just mentioned before. But ultimately, I think they were two great players in that specific match. I actually saw the difference when Ekuban came out. Retegui came in. I don't think that Retegui is in 100% shape or form, but I can only hope that he's going to build it up and or keeping it for the Euros or something, like unless he's just trying to. He's definitely like the box man, right? But at the same time, he has to grow as a player, and he can't just wait for the ball and just try to score it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true. I mean, I think that there's just like lots of things that kind of are a little bit of a bummer about the match too. So I'm happy with the performance, I'm happy with the result, but it kind of was, I don't know about you, I thought it was really interesting seeing us having Macias and Ekuban as our two leading men. We've never had that all season, I don't think, and you had Goodmanson kind of behind them. It's like, wow, this is going to be really interesting, and I thought it actually looked pretty solid for most of the first half. Like you mentioned, Macias unfortunately gets injured. Obviously, part of the reason why we're doing that is because Retegui's a little bit banged up. So now like he's coming back in, and to your point, like, he's playing a certain type of a way, but it just kind of felt like we might have been on the cusp of having a newer kind of way of rolling the dice and going out against other opponents. And we kind of lost that when Macias went down. And you're right. I mean, the game, when you look at it, is totally different from the first half and the second half. Literally all of our shots, all of our chances, and of course our goal, all of that happened in the first half. We had a pretty good, if you believe in like expected goals, we had a pretty good like 1.51 for the entirety of the match. We actually had 0 in the second half because we really didn't have a chance. And I think we were kind of struggling to find our way beyond kind of being stout defensively in the remaining 45 minutes of the match, which if you have a problem with Gilardino and that's your problem, I have less of an issue with that. But I still think that it's a match well done in the grand scheme of things. And you have to say that our game plan in the first 45 minutes was really solid. We didn't quite execute. And I think for me, really, that comes down to one play where Ekuban doesn't quite, it's a poor header from him, and he's a free header. But sometimes that stuff happens,
Left by Goodmanson. In it comes from Martin. Free header, and it really should have been the opening goal.
If it's going to be one play that's going to set us off the entire game and say we really fucked up, like as a team, we really did a good job. It's just had that one individual moment that wasn't great. And I personally look at Fiorentina's goal as more of Bonaventura being Bonaventura than Aaron Martin was asleep at the far post. Because I think, yeah, he does get beat, but I don't know. That's an incredible ball.
One thing I wanted to add was I can't give 100% fault, as I was hearing from many Genoani, to Aaron Martin. I definitely think that cross that came from Bonaventura over to the striker, it just caught off guard, perhaps, Martin, which was way behind the striker. So I can't necessarily give him that total fault. What I wanted to say was, yes, Fiorentina did drop a lot of points. We talked about the run of form even with Gabe Gabriele, and it's not pretty. But at the same time, let's say if their issue is what we had in the first half, we're growing, so we're not even at their point, their level at all yet anyways. They're at least 2 to 3 years ahead of us with respect to the project. And you can see that this team is very strong if they only had one, tops 2 competitions, but they're actually running into 3, if I'm not mistaken, competitions.
That's right.
And they're in the finals or semifinals of Coppa Italia. They're in the quarters now, running in the Conference League, and in, of course, the long, lengthy league, right? So Serie A. So they don't have the depth of many larger teams, like for instance, Milan or Inter or so on. But and that's why they're suffering in the league. So it seems like, looking at the table, that they are like a mediocre team, but I think they are deservedly to be like in the top 6 had they had a longer bench. So what I'm trying to say with this is, we went to their own home, their own turf, against a very strong team. Has ups and lows, a little bit like Atalanta too, if you really think about it at a bigger scheme. Great teams, very strong, but because there's so much at that they're competing for, they're missing out on something. You say you're going to have to give in to something, or you're going to have to win something. So you kind of have to focus on one of the ones. And that's what my take on this team is. And that's why we saw a very strong Fiorentina in the second half. And because Italiano does not, rightfully so, want to continue to lose points, because they only managed to get 2 points in the last 5 matches.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on this all the way. Like, anybody that comes at this thing and says that Fiorentina are a weak opponent, they're only in 10th position, we're not that many points behind them, even with the game in hand. I mean, for me, I don't agree with that. Like, I get that their form hasn't been always as great, but when you look at that squad top to bottom, and I get they're missing some guys. Forgetting player that bossed us in the first game wasn't there. Brazilian midfielder, I can't remember his name, but there's some guy. Maybe they've got some guys here and out. They've got some injuries. They've not had the best run of form, but there's still so many good players in this team. And we also caught them on a week where they had a shorter week, given that they were playing in Europe on Thursday. So like all those things come into play, and maybe you can say something about like we should have really gotten something out of this. But Arthur is just thinking. I'm sorry, Arthur. But long story short, I think you mainly take the positives with this thing. I understand there's this strange growing vitriol for Gila, which I just don't really just like what. But that being what it is and whatever's going on there, I think this is a good point. And to your point, I'm now a little bit worried about injuries, although thankfully, given where we've been in the season, I'm not sure it's going to ultimately cost us terribly. But
before we get to the injuries, we're going backwards. We mostly talked about the second goal. The first goal happens in the first half. It was. Why don't you tell us about the actual action?
I mean, it's pretty quick, honestly. It was. I can't remember if we had played like a long ball forward or something, but I think it was Ekuban was for sure involved, and I think actually I think it was Macias up there at the same time. And so, I'm not mistaken, it's him or Goodmanson, but I thought it was Macias actually. So he gets kind of free. It's a really good run from him. He forces kind of like a rebounded attempt, and it falls well to Ekuban, who then makes another run to try to kind of get in at goal, and then he's brought down in the box.
Martinez Quarta, Junior Macias will pounce here. What a mistake. Terracciano is there. Ekuban, was he caught? Penalty to Genoa. Parisi with the trip. Goodmanson to give Genoa the lead. Very coolly slotted. Just waited for Terracciano to commit himself. And it's Albert Goodmanson who gives Genoa the lead.
So, we were definitely getting pressure on there. Ekuban was a reason. So this is the other part of it. It's like, I'm going to be upset about Ekuban missing that header, but he won us that penalty. Like, that was something, even though the move started on the other side, he finished that, and his pressure and his pace on the ball and his threat at goal is what made them react the way that they had to and bring him down. That's how we have it. And then Goodmanson, as cool as you like, just notches another one for us, and we go into the break 1-0 up.
13 goals, and I think it's 8 goals in 7 matches or 7 goals in 8 matches, something like that.
If you count his international competition too, it's like insane.
And people are saying that since the transfer market, he's been doing poorly, but fans are fans, as we always were lately, actually reminding everyone. Anyways, 25,000 at the Franchi in Firenze, over 2,500 if not, Genoani in Florence. I personally heard 90% of the fans from Genoa side and only 10% of a Fiorentina side.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think this was I was messaging with, when we had Ellie on a couple of weeks ago, our famous supporter from up north. We were talking about Genoa club Chiavari, and Simone from that club, who'd visited us in New York several years ago, or 2 seasons ago now, I guess, was sending me some pictures and messages from the stands there, and just an awesome away support. Definitely was very vocal throughout the entire match. I think it was maybe the best one, maybe second only to Inter so far in terms of our away days support.
I would say so, yes.
They did a wonderful job.
So other thing I wanted to talk about, which had different people thinking differently, was the refereeing. So this was a debut in Serie A for Davide Di Marco. I personally think we might not get be on the same side here, but I think in the first half, or at least till the beginning of the second half, it was very solid refereeing. That I would call it, I don't know if it's fair to say it, but like more of an English style with very little yellow cards and very little fouls called. And I like that type of approach. I personally like it a lot, rather than just obeying by all these suckers falling on the grass and saying, "Oh my God, please give a yellow card to the bad boy." But no, up until that point, I think it was a very solid refereeing by his side. Unfortunately, after the second half, especially since that the second penalty that was given to us by him, called up by VAR, went to VAR. Was it not? Was it? At the end, it was a foul for Fiorentina, which I still have to understand how that happened, rather than the goalie had to kick it off because it went out or something, because the ball was in our hand. I don't know. I think it started...
Weren't there like two different things? Like there was one where Retegui went up for the corner and then he got pulled down and then they called that a penalty and they went to VAR and they said, actually, it's not a penalty. And then there was another moment towards the end where like it seemed like we got fouled and we got dragged down. They ended up eventually awarding us, I think we got, I don't know if it was a free kick or something, but there was another play that ended up being ruled in our favor. But it's like, why didn't you just call the foul in the first place? The end of the second half was a little bit strange. And if I'm not mistaken, we also got screened by the ref at one point. Like it just, I don't know.
I don't know. It got out of control. Yeah, it got out of control. I don't think he handled it very well, at least from sometime around the mid-second half or third of the second half onwards. And, obviously a pure Genoan would say it was a one-way for the home side. I think it was just started to be, maybe because it was his first match, a very nervous match. We knew and we predicted it to be a rough match. At the end, I didn't predict the scoreline of 2-2, but I did predict the tie. But at the same time, and you and Gabe were all pro Fiorentina, but but anyways, I wanted to point out that about the refereeing side. But we did well. Shots on target. Again, we're looking at always two different sites, which is good. Anyways, to compare the two, but shots on target were 3-3 for each side. So, that's why the 1-1. And the shots off target were a little bit higher for Fiorentina, 10 against 3. But at the same time, block shots 7 against 1, etc. But ball possession was more or less the same, 58-42. So it's not that off between the two.
Yeah.
So at the end, what the issue out of this match is not the result. It's not the well-played match, not the well-managed match by Gilardino. Still compliments to the guy. The issue I found was the injuries. So we lost Messias, most likely done for the rest of the season. Malinowski has already been out, and rumors have it again that we might not see him till the summer or whatnot. Hopefully maybe 1 or 2 matches at the end, but no promise around there. But now also Bani is out. Vitinha, we already knew he was out. Maybe he's going to recoup for the match after this one, so he's not going to even be there. So I'm going to say some bad words, but who's going to fuck is going to be in our lineup against our next opponent? So that brings us into the next match at the Ferraris against our nemesis, our not friendly fan.
Are definitely not friends. They're for sure not friends.
Of Lazio. Yeah. So Genoa against Lazio will be played on Saturday, and the issue is the lineup.
It's going to be a hard one for sure. I mean, like you mentioned, I think the guys that you normally count, it's at least 2 players that would start, if not 3, in Mattia Bani and Messias and Malinowski. There could be additional implications there. We talked again about Retegui. I don't know if he ends up starting or not, but I feel like with potentially a lagging injury, it might be smart actually to not do that. But it raises a lot of questions about how we're going to go about this thing. We have Goodmanson healthy, thank goodness. Badel, yes. Frendrup, yes. I think those 3 in the middle of the park, I think are probably going to be pretty penciled in. I'm not sure what we're going to do at the back. If we're going to see more like Vasquez, De Winter, Voyako, maybe.
Cittadini also, let's not forget about him.
That's right.
I mean, we do have second lines, and it's the time for them to play as well, to show, especially for the club, what do we want to do next year. So it's time for them to shine, to show what they're worth, and it's okay. I mean, ultimately, we're at 39 points. It is a hell of a season that went so far. So let's not to worry about necessarily, even though I'm the one that raised it, that the worrisome is the starting 11. But at the same time, let's let them play and see who can shine. Looking at the run of form for Lazio, I'm a little bit scared in a way because while on the first leg we did an amazing match against them at Roma, winning there, on the second round we have them a little bit more pumped up. So this was after the sacking of now I can't remember exactly when it happened, but he quit, of Sarri.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I see a win away at Frosinone, which we know it's not an easy match to do, a win to do. Then they win at home against Juventus. A few days later, mind you, they do lose 2-0 to Juventus once again in the Coppa Italia semi-final. Then they lose the derby against Roma 1-0. That was an awful match, by the way. And last but not least, thrashing 4-1 against Salernitana. At this point, poor Salernitana is gone, and they'll just have to lick their wounds and worry about next year. Right. But what I'm sure, some are good, some are bad, but they're still winning. They're getting points. The run of form looks quite legit right now. I mean, again, on the paper, but 3 wins, 2 losses. And, they're coming hungry to recoup their spots because right now they're sitting outside of the European Cups. Now, they are right at the tail end. Most likely seems we might get that one extra spot for Champions League, which brings them inside. But at the same time, you still want to be higher up. And actually, I'm thinking about this. Who won last year's championship was Napoli, which are outside of the cups right now. Again, even for them, it's not end yet. It's going to be difficult, but it's challenging. And the other one was Lazio, which are both of them are doing horrendously.
It's weird. It's a very upside down Serie A season. It's very, very strange with that side of it. But again, you go into this match and you think this is an opponent that has capable players, and like you said, they have a pedigree. I mean, it's their form though is really weird to me because like if you count also their last Champions League appearance, which was a 3-0 loss to Bayern, who just beat Arsenal today. They lost 4, they won 2. I think they lost 1, they lost 2, and they won 1. So like it's not as like superpower encouraging. Like you mentioned, yeah, they steamrolled Salernitana. That's fantastic. But they lost to Roma. They lost to Juventus, which I guess in the end there's not that too much harm in that. They only lost 2-0.
Coppa Italia.
Yes, in the Coppa Italia. Thank you. So I think there's reason to still be optimistic in some of this stuff, but it's another challenging match, and unfortunately for us, it's one that's being played midday on a Friday. So it just makes it a little bit that much harder.
Oh, it's on a Friday.
Just to watch it, yeah.
Oh shoot! I said Saturday earlier. My bad. Okay, so that means we have to hurry up on this recording. I have to do the editing. So let's go. Okay, let's dive into the predictions.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, like obviously Lazio have a very solid squad, but I feel like we've got an opportunity here. I think it's an interesting one. Can you hear the dogs in the background?
Someone's cheering for someone or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not even. It's my neighbor's dogs too. They have like a coonhound. So I think that dog is urging me to pick Genoa in the match. I think it will be 2-1 to Genoa in the end. There's lots of reasons to be concerned and to not really know exactly what's going to happen here. I mean, do you think Vitinha is a player that we might see in the starting lineup? Is that an option? He's not an option at all, right?
We won't know till tomorrow, but it seems like he might still skip this one and be ready for next one.
Which sucks. The way that we won the first match against Lazio, we had the right moments in choosing our counterattack. We really made advantage of the opportunities that came to us. I can't remember if Dragutin scored one of those goals, but I feel like we got one of them maybe from a corner. I don't remember exactly, but I still do think that we can do it though. I think it's possible. I think a 2-1 win is something that we're capable of, especially at home. And my neighbor's dog completely agrees with that sentiment. And I'm going to say that for us on the goal scoring side, Goodmanson obviously has been in the run of form that he has been in, so that's probably not saying all that much. But I also kind of like Frendrup. I think Frendrup every now and then will get a decent chance at a decent strike. If we're winning this game, if we're going to make it happen, we need our entire team to kind of be involved and to find that way and find that pressure. I think we can cope okay without Bani. I don't love it because he's the most senior defender in the back three. But with Vasquez, De Winter, some combination of Voyako or whoever we end up putting in there, I think we'll be okay in the grand scheme of things. And I also think that, if you're like me and you're encouraged by Aaron Martin, we've got options on the flanks. We have Aaron Martin. We brought in Haps as a substitute. We've seen some encouraging things from Jed Spence. He's not really had a real breakout game yet, but he's kind of been on the cusp. So this is a match that we might see a little bit of that shine. But for me, 2-1 to Genoa is my prediction. I do think it could go multiple ways, as many of our games this season have had a complexion of. But I feel better about this game actually than I did against Fiorentina. So tell me I'm crazy.
You're not crazy. I'm going to say that I'm going to start off actually immediately by saying I agree with the scoreline. I think it's going to be 2-1 as well, and I'll tell you why. The team is going to still want to show that they're still there. They're not going to the beach yet, especially against our own fans. They have already shown a couple matches that they were not there, and they don't want to disappoint them again. I think all that matters is what Gilardino is going to do. We still have that option of the 4-4-2 as an example of a formation, so that can also change the 3-5-2 differently with introduction maybe of Vogliacco and or Cittadini in order to compensate the missing of Bani. But for the score line, that's the part that it's a little bit tricky. Definitely Gudmundsson is one of the candidates, but I don't think he's going to score this time around. I think Retegui is going to definitely have to show up his game. He's going to be in the starting 11, no question about it, depending on how they put that formation. And Gilardino is very clever in modeling the formation around the quality of the players that he has. So that's why I'm thinking about a possibility of changing on the strategy from a 3-5-2 to a 4-4-2, perhaps. Mm-hmm. And up front, we will, or even a 4-4-1-1, having Gudmundsson a little bit behind of Retegui. These two are not necessarily culo e camicia, as we say in Italian, it literally means bum and shirt, which means they get necessarily along, but they have shown that they can work together, and that's the important thing. So in the scoreline, I'm going to say Retegui as the first, and then as a second, it'll be the Jolly, which is, Strootman from the outside.
There we go. Yeah, similar to my Fendrick pick. I think something like that. It feels like something could happen there. I mean, the encouraging thing for us is Lazio have almost a worse injury prognosis than we do. They're carrying over many players that they also didn't have against Salernitana, but with all due respect, I think we offer more of a test than Salernitana do. Romagnoli, Immobile, which would have been fun to kind of beat him while he's playing, but we're not going to see Immobile, unfortunately. Provedel, Luca Pellegrini, Guendouzi, all of these guys out of the contest for Lazio. They still are going to have maybe some of their better players. Actually, Felipe Anderson for them this season has probably been their best. He's been a real lightning rod, and they've got a number of other players that can do damage. Mattias Vicino, a center midfielder for them. Obviously, Luis Alberto, who's been with them forever, and a younger player, Valentin Castellanos, I think will probably be the one that starts for them as their forward. So it's still a team that, like you said, this is a team that has a lot of star power. They have a lot of players. So it's not, even with all these injuries and with, their season kind of being up and down, there's still a lot of kind of talented players here. But I think if we're disciplined in our approach, we can get something out of this match.
This will be match day 33, which is something interesting. This is in the final rush. It looks quite interesting what it's going to look like. But at the same time, we have our 39 points. Ultimately, the goal for the season is 40. We are almost there. Only 6 matches left. But anything can happen. Nothing with respects to the safety. I think it is there. I mean, this is the time where wild results happen. And I'm not talking necessarily only about our match.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we are at a wrap. This was a fast one, but at the same time, we have to get ready because I have a baby coming up. No, I'm joking. and we're recording already on Wednesday for this match coming up on Friday. So follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Did you want to add one last thing, Matt?
No. I'm just excited about the match this Friday. I hope we end up taking care of business. And
gotta block my calendar, damn it. I was not prepared for that one.
Yeah. And you're gonna have to tell. I mean, maybe we'll have news to break in the next pod. Who knows? So.
All right. So never forget, always and forever, Forza Genoa. You've listened to La Lanterna, a spotlight on Italian football, a podcast powered by Genoani Si Resta. Thank you for listening and see you next week.